Al, it is time once again to return to the world of. Well, they don't say it like this in the actual game, but we're gonna say it anyways because that is how we feel. Resident Evil,
Yeah.
and we're gonna play a game that neither of us had played until now.
Nope, I'd only watched people play it. I did make an attempt at one point to play it with my
Yes,
brother.
you're
But
like
I
no
only
too
got
spoopy.
I got too spooked by it and I couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, today we are talking about Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. A definite change in pace for the Resident Evil franchise.
And
Like the mainline
perspective.
franchise, for sure, yes. Yes, indeed. That's what we're going to talk about today here on episode number 308 of the Seasonal Anime Checkup OVA. It's a podcast where we have conversations about video games, anime, and manga. Hello, I'm Jared, joined as always by Doc, Al, and Ladium.
Hello, hello.
And yeah, we're going to talk about Resident Evil 7 finally.
Yep.
That is for sure what we are going to do. I played through this video game. Al watched and guided me through it.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was a helper.
we managed to get through all of it. We played the two, I guess, bigger DLCs that are attached to this game.
Mm-hmm.
So we basically played, this game. That's it. Let's see here. This game originally came out on Windows, PS4, and Xbox One on January 24th, 2017, and then 2 days later in Japan. It came out on the Switch on May 24th, 2018 in Japan, and will be coming worldwide, I think, via cloud version on December 16th, 2022.
Oh, boy.
It was also put out on the Amazon Luna on October 20th, 2020, and
boy.
also put out on the Google Stadia on April 1st, 2021. That's a great April Fool's joke.
Nice.
And then PS5 and Xbox Series upgrades were put out on June 13th, 2022. So yes, this game has come out on a lot of different things because it is a Resident Evil game. That's just what they do. But also this game is like 5 years old, and that's makes us almost 6 years old basically at this point now.
Wow.
That's
I didn't realize
enough
it
to
was
make
that
you
old.
feel old. Let's dive into the development of this here video game.
Okay.
Following the release of Resident Evil 6, Capcom conducted internal discussions regarding the direction of the next installment. A preliminary version of the game developed in 2013 featured a more action-oriented gameplay similar to that of Resident Evil 6. That would have been great.
Yep. I agree. That would have been super great.
Taking inspiration from the 1981 film The Evil Dead, the developers decided to scale back the game to one location and use a first-person perspective to immerse players and return the series to its roots of survival horror. Development began around February 2014. The game is built on a custom game engine named the RE engine, which does not named Resident Evil engine. It's just the RE engine. It also includes VR development tools because this game is also on VR platforms. I don't know if it's actually out on other VR platforms outside of PlayStation VR. I don't know if it ever came out. Yeah. The decision to make the game first person was made well before VR was considered. VR development started in October 2015, for which a separate team was created. The introduction of VR demanded that textures be more detailed, discarding flat textures and inaccurate object sizes that had previously been used. A year before the game's announcement, Capcom presented to attendance of E3 2015 a first-person horror-themed VR demo titled Kitchen with a 7, which ran on the same engine. While Resident Evil 7 had been developed long before Kitchen was seen as an opportunity to evaluate how the RE engine and its VR capabilities would be received. As a hint to the demo's relation to RE7, the logo of Kitchen had the letter T designed so it resembled a 7, but it went largely unnoticed. People were dumb.
Largely unnoticed.
In the company's integrated report of 2015, the Resident Evil development division of Capcom was stated to focus on creating experiences for the VR market, which included the new VR engine and games for the 8th generation of consoles, which I believe is like the PS4 and Xbox One.
Yeah, it makes sense.
The game was directed by Koshi Nakanishi, who previously helmed Resident Evil Revelations, leading a development team numbering about 120 staff. For the first time in the series, the narrative designer is a Westerner, Richard Percy, who writer of the 2 expansion packs of Fear, and one of the narrative designers of Spec Ops: The Line. That's a very odd combination.
Yes. Huh.
At the time of the game's reveal, development was around 65% complete. Some of the creature models in Resident Evil 7 were first created in physical form, a number of them from actual meat by makeup artists, to be then scanned through the employment of photogrammetry.
Hold on, did you say actual meat?
Yes.
Am I missing something?
Meat.
Like, just meat?
Meat. This says actual meat.
Like MEAT.
Yes. That's correct.
Okay. You know, sure.
This technology developed over half of the general assets of the game, but posed a problem in researching the setting of Louisiana because its considerable demand for equipment made it unviable for transport, which required Capcom to model by hand. According to Jun Takeuchi, the higher-ups of Capcom wanted Resident Evil 7 Biohazard to be a live service game with online multiplayer and microtransactions. This was putting pressure on the development team until Takeuchi was asked to join the project and scrap those plans.
Ooh,
Interesting.
Wow. Oh, okay.
Let's talk about the pre-release of this video game. Due to its first-person presentation, the game has drawn comparisons to Konami's canceled Silent Hills game and its PT demo. Capcom responded to this by pointing out that Resident Evil 7 was in development long before the reveal of PT, and dispelled any rumors about staff of PT had been hired to work on the game. Shack News noted that Beginning Hour, which I believe is one of the demos, had several similarities with Sweet Home, the Capcom horror game that inspired the original Resident Evil. These similarities to Sweet Home include the plot of a film crew going to an abandoned house, a paranormal female presence in the house, and a tragic tale involving a family that once lived there. Eurogamer found the element of survival horror in Lantern reminiscent of Alien Isolation. Resident Evil 7 was well received for the dissimilarity to its polarizing predecessor, in particular the change from action-oriented combat and effects to an approach more grounded in horror. Well, let me tell you something. That was a bad change.
Yeah, Resident Evil 6 was so much better. Much better. I'm going to say it straight up right this second. Resident Evil 6, so much better. Much better game.
This game got good reviews on the Metacritic. It had an 86 out of 100 for the console versions and an 83 out of 100 for the PC versions. It was definitely a well-received iteration of Resident Evil.
Mm-hmm.
All right, it's time for Al to guess sales numbers.
Oh, no, I'm not good at this.
As of June 2022, how many units has this game sold?
I mean, it was on a lot of things.
Correct.
Oh, no. What did I guess last time? I guess, like, the thing had 10 million?
I think so.
I'm going to say 12.5 mil.
Ooh, little high.
Oh.
11 million.
Not,
it's a lot.
Not, like, too far off, though.
Mm-mm. That is a lot of units, for sure.
That is a lot, yes.
I just want you to know that a website named this as the best horror game of all time in 2017. And I think that is very funny.
What?
So yeah, this is Resident Evil 7. They made it first person. It has a new protagonist, a new setting. It basically is a soft reboot for the series, essentially. Mm-hmm. Kind of going back in the direction of, hey, we're going to go into a singular location. You're going to explore it, and there's going to be some creepy stuff in there, and that's kind of what happens. There are no zombies in this.
Nope, no zombies.
Which is a departure from the series.
I mean, to be fair, they've been calling them not zombies, like, since...
You're not wrong, but, like, very clearly there are not any in this.
No, there are none. It's mold.
Mold.
The real villain all along.
The real villain, mold. And yeah, it tries to be more grounded in horror than actiony, and I feel like for us in particular, that was a detriment to this game, because let me tell you, it doesn't really play great when you have to do shooting stuff. Not fun. I feel like we're obviously going to be very divergent from a lot of people's thoughts and opinions about this game, which is fine. That's just, how things can go sometimes.
Yep.
But I also feel like going into this game, we kind of had a preconceived notion that we probably weren't going to be the biggest fans of this game. And it turns out we weren't the biggest fans of this game.
Wild.
I know. Yeah, it's a weird game. I think that's kind of like the biggest takeaway I've gotten from this is that it's just weird. Like, outside of like the references and the ending of the game, you could slap another title on this game and it would just be generic horror game that Capcom put out that's not associated with the Resident Evil series at all.
I think it probably would have been less terrible to me if they had done that.
Yeah.
I don't know, because the whole time I'm like, this isn't Resident Evil. It's just not Resident Evil.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of butts.
It's very much like they are definitely tone shifting this from like what we saw in 4, 5, and 6 up to this point, where it's very much going in more action horror oriented levels of gameplay, which that is basically the base of Resident Evil up to that point essentially. And this tries to go more into like the vein of a lot of like indie horror games at the time, kind of like your Amnesias and all that sort of stuff, where it's first person, you're trying to be stealthy and not get caught by monsters and stuff like that. Like, it's very much that style of horror gameplay compared to what we had seen previously in Resident Evil. And also it feels like it has like this more serious tone to it, which definitely feels counterproductive to what Resident Evil is as a franchise.
I've said this to you many times, and I will never stop saying this. I really think that people forget how absolutely silly Resident Evil has been all along.
Correct.
I really think they forget because, like, yeah, there have been the memes about RE1, but like, I don't think they really think about. There's just like stupid lines and stupid events. Like in Resident Evil 4, which is one of the most loved games in this series, you have a giant Napoleon-esque statue man trying to stomp Leon to death.
It's true.
That's what this series is.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, the fact that people seem to think that Resident Evil is like super serious, it's like, were we playing the same games?
No, I think that's the key thing here. We weren't.
Oh, dang. Well, that's a problem. And that's part of why I like Resident Evil so much, is because it's able to balance like that goofiness with like actually being scary, as opposed to just being scary all the time.
Yeah.
And I feel like this game lacked so much of the silliness that it was just like, unpleasant.
I also feel like, I mean, we didn't play this game in VR, which I feel like
I would never
does
play this game in VR.
well, it probably would make this a different experience than how we played through it, obviously, because like you're going to be more immersed in that environment and everything. It's going to change how you perceive everything in that game per se. And I've heard it does that really, really well. So I'm not going to like knock it or do anything like that. But hearing often how like this game is so good at horror and everything, like this game really isn't that scary. And I feel like that was the weirdest and like most surprising aspect of this game for me. It was like I was going into this thing like, oh man, this is gonna suck. I don't want to get scared a bunch, and like kind of really wasn't. It was just like you run around an empty house a lot, and like maybe 2 enemies will show up, and this is the same enemy you fight every single time, and that's kind of it.
That's another thing, is that like there aren't many, like there's not a lot of variety in terms of what you're fighting, which is kind of lame.
There's like 3 in the main game. There's a new one in the Chris DLC, and I think there may be another new one in the End of Zoe DLC.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And again, that's not a whole lot of variety in terms of enemies. Like usually in these games, you feel like you're seeing just different variations of the traditional enemy, and then just some weird scattered throughout as well. But this one is just, there really isn't a whole lot of that at all.
it really sucks. I mean, like I remember once again going back to RE4. Um, you had the dudes with like the claws
Hmm.
that like they couldn't see but they could hear you. Those things were terrifying. But even more terrifying were those like regenerator guys that would have the pug breathing.
Yeah.
The guys.
Hmm.
Um, like was there was variety there and it was interesting. Um, and so it's kind of lame that there was so little variety here.
It was
Um,
surprising.
it was also surprising. You are
Yeah.
correct. Um, and I mean, I guess one thing that I should probably mention, have I mentioned that I couldn't really play this very well because of the first person, and that's why I watched you play?
Yeah, you are not a first person.
I am not a first person, and I tried to play this once. I did get a little too scared at one point, but I could not do it with the first person.
Hmm.
The shift in perspective was just not for me. I think the only first person game that I'm actually like somewhat okay with is Doom,
Yeah.
specifically Doom 2016, because that's the good one. But I don't do well with first person, so it was like, oh no.
I think for me as
Um,
well, like one of the weird things about this game is that like, I'm a fan of like the very story driven, the quote unquote walking simulators.
mm-hmm,
Like I've played a lot of those, and it feels like this also kind of takes some inspiration from those,
mm-hmm.
but just like I don't know, there's something about this game is just like it's kind of boring, which is like not something you would expect to hear from a Resident Evil game. It's just like it's kind of boring to play through. Just like this house is kind of there. It's like yeah, I guess I'm looking at a couple things here and there, and
I mean,
just
you said
just
that a
moving
few times while we were
around.
playing, like you just were bored.
Yeah, it's like I said earlier. Like I feel like they're try they. I feel like they intentionally handicap the combat in this game to make it more survival horror-ish and try to make it scarier and all that sort of stuff. But like
Right.
I don't think that does a good job of like creating tenseness and horror. It just makes me frustrated that like I don't really like how this plays.
Yeah, like one of the things that I think they were trying to pull off is that like Ethan is an everyman type thing as opposed to somebody who has some training, which as much as she falls off later on in the series, that's Claire.
Hmm.
Like Claire, had beef-tastic brother situation, but like she's just a regular girl who ended up like in the middle of this like really terrible situation and had to figure it out.
Right.
Um,
And they didn't intentionally handicap her gameplay at all in any of those.
no. It's very weird.
Yeah.
Um, Also we should have just gotten a new wife. That's really all there is to it.
That you're not wrong. Could have ended this whole thing early by turning around and going the other way.
When I tried to play it with my brother, and I've told you this a few times, when I was trying to play it with my brother, the whole time when I was freaking out, I was just like, "We can get a new wife. The online dating is a thing. We don't have to have this wife. We could get a new one. It's fine. It's fine. We could divorce her. We're good.
A new wife.
New wife, one who's not trying to chainsaw me to death and
Yeah, that's very
remove
rude.
limbs. Was it her that removed the limb, or was it Jack or Jake or no, it wasn't Jake because Jake rules. Jack is his name? The
I
dad?
think so.
I don't remember.
Either way, yeah, it's a lot of limb work here.
Yo, poor Ethan and his limbs.
Got
Boy,
some messed up
goes
stuff
through
happening
it.
to him.
Goes through it.
Yeah. 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 I feel like I was gonna say something now. I don't remember what I was gonna say, but either way, should we
Um,
talk about this plot?
yes, but one other thing I want to say before we talk about the plot
Mm-hmm.
is I know that they based the characters off of real people like they ended up doing with like RE2 and 3 remakes and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's just something about Mia's model that freaks me out.
I wonder if it's like just because like it's their first time using this engine and it's like they haven't worked out the kinks of it yet.
It
Because like
probably is.
all the other games, everyone looks fine.
Yeah, they look fine.
Yeah.
And it may just be like you said, they haven't figured out the kinks of it, but like the whole time it's just like, God, you're creepy.
And maybe it's also a thing where like you're playing this in first person, so like that's a different perspective than like a third person game.
There's that too, maybe. Yeah.
So
I don't know. She's creepy in the way that they don't intend her to be creepy.
right.
Anyway, we could talk about the story.
Yeah. Ethan Winters. He's our new protagonist, which you're not gonna learn much about him. He's just a dude.
He's
in this
just a guy.
Just a dude.
Never see his face.
Loses some limbs every now and then.
Every now and then he falls apart. God. But then he gets stapled back together.
Yeah. As you do. That's how you attach the limbs back. And he's like, oh, I can use this again. Cool.
And just pours some of the first aid med.
The juice.
The juice.
The juice. So yeah, he's just a dude. He gets a call from his wife who's been missing for 3 years and is like, don't come find me. And he's like, okay, I'm going to come find you. Like a fool.
Well, he does get a message that says like that something else to him about finding her.
But what if he was a fool?
He is a fool. He's a straight up fool. We also get like a little scene with the camera crew guys.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember when we get that. Oh, we get that later when we actually go into the house. Never mind. Continue.
But yeah, he just goes there and he's like, I gotta go find this house where apparently she is and everything. And turns out it's a house that's full of this family who basically has been kidnapping people and like torturing them and performing all these weird experiments on them and all that sort of stuff. Very torture porn-esque style of family here.
Yep.
Like this is just a family out of Saw. I want to play a game.
I mean,
that's essentially what Lucas is. He's basically the puppet from Saw.
I was about to say
is.
that he did the same thing. That was
I want to play a game. Call of Duty Warzone's puppet from Saw.
The Bakers, is that their last name? Yes.
The Bakers, yes.
Bakers. And yeah, they're definitely like the family that you stay away from in Louisiana.
Yeah, it's essentially it's a lot of like you hear all about these backwoods country folk and how they're messed up, and now look at here, it's a video game about the messed up folk in the backwoods of Louisiana.
The Bayou.
The Bayou.
Yeah. They're basically like, let's take the Southern stereotype, and this one goes to 11.
Yeah. So you get the Baker family, we have Jack, who's the dad, Margaret, who is the mom, Lucas is the son, and then there's Grandma. And then Zoe's also somewhere else in college to help you out, but she's not affiliated with these folks.
Nope.
In the same way, like in terms of like doing messed up stuff.
For the first like 3/4 of the game, Zoe is a phone.
Yes.
She is just a phone. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see it for like all of 5 minutes.
Yeah, basically your whole mission through here is like you want to get your wife back, but also like you need to go find this serum that's gonna like essentially cure Zoe and Mia of this ailment that they have. That's also whatever the weird stuff that makes the Bakers all weird as well. Because you keep fighting Jack and he keeps dying, quote unquote, and basically keeps coming back, and everyone's like, what is this guy doing? Man, that one boss fight with him where you have to like, he's got the scissors, that fight sucked.
Yeah,
it was a bad fight.
It was way too long.
Bad fight. I don't mean the one where you get to run him over with a car was fun because you drive a car into him. That was pretty funny. At least that was fun. But yeah, the second boss fight, stinky.
Real
also, stinker.
At one point, Mia comes at you with a chainsaw.
She does, because she's all messed up and like acting weird, and you're just like, I don't know what to do. I'm gonna hit you in the neck with an axe. Ah! And she's like, whatever, who cares? Chainsaw. like you said earlier, like you keep finding these weird VHS tapes of like things that have happened in the Baker house, and like one of them is like this camera crew who was gonna like shoot this television show about this house, how it's all spooky and everything, and they get caught up in the Baker family schemes and everything, and get kidnapped and tortured and all that sort of stuff. You see stuff that's happened with Mia over the course of the last 3 years, essentially, and kind of get some backstory on her and all that. Which
It's
they do
odd that
interesting.
they were like, hey, we use typewriters in the original games because that was like old tech. Why don't we do VHS and tape recorders for
Tape
this one?
recorders for your saving.
And I was like, which, by the way, for the record, if you're watching somebody play it, and they go to save in like the actual game, it just looks like you're like threatening the tape recorder with with whatever weapon you have in your hand. It's like, save this game now, tape
I'm gonna
recorder.
shoot it.
Or stab it. Anyway, sorry. I interrupted you.
Yep.
We're talking about the tapes and seeing like what happens with Mia
Yeah,
and
and then like they let you play through those sections as well, which is like an interesting touch, even though like it really doesn't do much difference because it's just like you basically just don't have weapons or anything like that. And it's just you're kind of just in a first person perspective again, and it's like I guess this is a different character. Okay.
Yep.
Anyways,
The happy birthday one I think is a very weird one because
mhm.
you essentially just do the exact same puzzle twice, like very close together.
Yeah,
Just one goes a little bit different than the other.
right. Once you deal with Jack, you have to deal with Margaret, who's like a bug lady.
Oh God, her bugs are
She's in
so
her
annoying.
bug house, and that's real mean and messed up.
Yep.
And then you got to fight her, and that's how you get the serum. Um, except Lucas captures both of the ladies and is like, "Come through my barn, kaboom boom!" And then Jack comes back again. You have to fight him, but then you use the serum on him, and now you only got one serum left. What do you do?
Oh no. Also, something worth mentioning is that this fight with Jack, you were saying, is like the most Resident Evil like fight in the game because
Yes,
there's all the
because
eyes.
yeah, it has eyeballs on. This is a Resident Evil fight. I'm like, yeah, okay, this is a Resident Evil game now. We've
Yep.
started.
Yep.
We're like 6 hours in now.
You got to look
Finally
for
here.
either the eye or the glowing heart. That's usually what you look for in Resident Evil games.
And it had that, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is Resident Evil, all right.
Yeah, you use the
You
serum on him.
and definitely kill him this time.
Yep. Wink.
And then you gotta choose one of Zoe or Mia to give the serum to.
You get a bad end if you give it to Zoe.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't do that. We did the good end.
Yes. Which I thought like this was gonna be. It felt like this was the end of the game.
Yeah,
I was like, okay,
really
we're gonna
did.
get on this boat and we're out of here. And then it's like, oh no, you still have like another third of the game left. And I was like, okay. So like you get this boat section as well, and like I don't think the boat section is great at all.
It is not good. It just
Essentially,
feels like padding.
yeah, and it's also just like we need to info dump exactly what's happening in this game for you.
Yeah.
About how Spooky Girl is like patient zero and she's brainwashing all these people and she thinks Mia's her mama because she wants family, but she's just wants to puke up mold people as well and infect them and now I'm mad because you're not my mom.
And you want to go back to Ethan. Grrr.
And you get essentially another like backstory or you get like a flashback of what Mia was actually doing on the ship and everything and like how everything kind of became the way it is here and how she got in this whole mess of a situation. And then basically you get to be Ethan again after Mia saves you and you're like, oh, okay, whatever. And then Mia's just like, I'm going to stay in this ship. See you later.
Bye. Everything you've done is for nothing.
And then you get to go to a salt mine.
Yay.
Which is where the lab is. Yay.
Can we just talk for a second about the environment we have here? Because we have this house, that's fine. And then we have like a guest house in the back, also fine.
Yeah.
But then like there's a body of water large enough to have like a large boat. Like a 4-story boat.
That everyone's just like, oh, whatever, we'll just keep this here for 3 years. Nothing wrong with that.
Right. And also there's just a mine and like that's not really acknowledged.
Love the
Like,
salt.
what is going on with this place?
It's the backwoods people.
That's not how the backwoods work. We don't just keep. I say we. I am not the backwoods people either, but the backwoods people don't just keep random like giant bodies of water and salt mines in their backyard. But I mean, it would make more sense to have somewhere where you like make moonshine or something, but not really in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Anyway, we go to the salt mines for some reason.
I mean, this is where I think you have to go get more stuff to defeat Evelyn, who is the spooky girl who's patient zero, essentially.
Yep.
So you can defeat her once and for all, and essentially it leads you back up to the house where you get to fight her, and she's like, I'm going to send you spooky hallucinations.
Whoa. Also,
Make
I
you think things are
figured it out at one
happening.
point. I figured
You
out
did.
what was going on.
You did do that.
Resident Evil games.
Mm-hmm. Eventually, you find out Evelyn is spooky grandma who kept popping up every now and then in the house, and it's like, hey, grandma, how's it
You
going?
were just like, "Hi, Grandma. What's up?"
Bye, grandma.
She would just show up, and I'm like, "How did she even get here? This isn't wheelchair accessible."
She's like, rip, and then you go back in there, she's gone. I'm like, okay, bye,
Gone.
grandma.
Bye, Grandma.
So, unsurprisingly, she turns into a giant monster, and you get to shoot her in the face a lot.
What?
And then you get flung around, and you find a gun on the floor named the Albert,
The
and
Albert.
you shoot it, and kill Evelyn, and then here comes Chris Redfield, who's looking real weird.
He's the Dollar Tree version of Chris Redfield.
He's the bootleg action figure version.
The We Have McDonald's at Home version.
It's instead of the Resident Evil figure, it's like the homebody baddie.
Daddy.
Chris with a K, blue ground.
Oh my god. They're like, what if we just completely remake Chris and also make him work for Umbrella?
So yeah, they make Umbrella into a PMC of all things, because they're like, yeah, everyone in Umbrella feels bad about what we've done, so we're trying to rebuild our image, and we're now a PMC.
And now
Like,
we're
what?
Blue Umbrella.
And we have a really worse logo.
Yeah. Like, why would you pick a blue umbrella? Blue's my favorite color, but like, it ain't working.
It's weird, yeah. You were gonna say something. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was gonna say like, just rebrand entirely, my friends.
Yes, that would have been easier for sure.
Yes.
But yeah, you defeat Evelyn, and then Chris gets you out of there with the rest of Umbrella, and Mia's there, and she's like, hey, we're gonna carry you. Cool. All right, let's get out of here.
Woo.
Hooray. And that's the end of the game, which is like, you're just like, okay, that was a game for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That leads you into the DLCs.
Yep.
The first big one is Not a Hero, which was I guess I could get for free, so I downloaded it for free. You get to play as Chris Redfield, and he has like a Halo visor now, which is very funny.
Chris Blueground.
Yeah. And this one you have to go find Lucas and apprehend him, because like we were talking about this after the game. It's like, what happened? Lucas is kind of, nothing happened to him. He's just kind of there and gone. But it turns out he's hiding in the salt mines and trying to give information to the Connections, which I'm guessing is probably people that you'll find in RE8.
I don't remember them in RE8.
Okay, then they'll never be shown again. Who knows? I mean, one or the other.
I really don't remember them, but.
But essentially, you have to go through the salt mines in these very convoluted ways to find other agents that Chris needs to find, because they've been kidnapped and everything and being tortured. And also, Chris gets a bomb strapped to his wrist.
Chris basically becomes Leon S. Kennedy here because everyone around him dies.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It's a very small DLC, because like you're just very confined to like 4 big areas, like a central hub, and then 3 side areas that eventually give you all your goodies that you need before you go fight the final boss, which is Lucas. Turns out Lucas mutates as well. Shocker. Who would have seen this coming? And you got to fight him, and that boss fight also kind of sucks as well. Wasn't great.
He didn't turn into Jack again.
And also, it was very funny to see things like Chris Redfield struggling to turn a lever down. It's like, buddy,
Yeah.
I saw you last game, and your arms were like 24 inches high. You were jacked to the gills.
Jacked.
And now you look like a beanstalk. What happened to you?
That man's arms are probably wider than my entire torso.
He was built different, and now he's built less different.
Less different.
It was very weird, but yeah.
Also, the dang like oxygen thing was just stupid.
Yeah, that was not great.
Not good.
But yeah, this is more action based, I would say, but it still isn't great because I feel like the gunplay in this game isn't good. So
right,
it really wasn't all that fun. But yeah, you eventually you beat Lucas, and then everyone's like, "Yay, congratulations, you did it."
And
Good job.
Then we got to the other DLC.
And then the final big DLC story bit is the end of Zoe, which deals with what happens with Zoe after the events of RE7. And also, Jack's brother Joe shows up and is like, "What the happened here? What are y'all doing in my swamp?"
You just made him sound like Shrek.
I mean, he's not. He kind of is.
He's kind of Shrek. You're right.
Which, at this point, we were not feeling great about this game.
No.
But I had heard good things about this DLC in particular.
I had also heard good I had heard that it was punchy, and I heard that it was good.
Yes. So, like, that in mind, we were kind of like, okay, we're going to give this a shot. Yep. And hopefully this is at least somewhat competent.
We had to do a switcheroo onto my system.
Holy
this rolled!
This was amazing. This is some Resident Evil.
Yeah, it is. Oh, my God. The whole time
man.
just like, oh, what a breath of fresh air this is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God. It was beautiful.
So, essentially, you still have first-person gameplay and all that stuff, right? But Joe decides, I don't want weapons or anything. I have fists. That's how I'm going to beat up these enemies. That's all I need. I got my fists here. These are my 2 weapons. And that's what you do. You just beat up the molded. And it's real great.
It's real good.
Oh, man. You can stealth kill them by just snapping their necks. You can punch through their heads. Just beat them up and then kick them down to death. I mean, you can do craft spears eventually so you can fight some alligators. But, like, that's the only real weapon you get. And then there's also a big tough man who comes around every time you find out, oh, it's my brother. It's my brother.
Also, you get to do wrestling moves on him one time.
Yeah, you've hit him with a power bomb. And I was like, oh, my God, this is the best thing ever. This has redeemed this video game.
They should have just released a full version of like this as opposed to whatever the RE7 was. Just
100%.
I guarantee because of how they are, that really good characters are just forgotten forever. So like, you know, Jake's probably never going to be seen again, and Carlos was in 3, and he's a pretty good character, and we're never going to see him again. Who's the guy in 0?
Who is the guy in 0?
Oh, no.
I mean, he was a criminal.
A criminal. No, not criminal.
Why can't I find a Resident Evil series page? That's what I was looking for. Billy, yes.
We barely see Rebecca again.
Yeah.
Barely. So we're never gonna see this guy again.
No, which is a shame because he's great.
He's great. He's just a dude. Bugs.
Yeah, he's just a dude who just shows up. He's jacked and he just wants to punch things. And he's like, I just want my family to be okay, and that's it. I'm just here to fix things. Umbrella, why are you here? I will mess you up. Oh, I guess you're here to help. Okay, cool. That's fine. And he's got to go find some serum to help Zoe, and then that's all he wants to do is just help his family and punch things.
Including his brother. Especially his brother.
His brother.
Also, in true Resident Evil fashion, you get like the weird gauntlet at the end.
Oh my God, it's so good.
It's so good.
You can one-hit punch KO everything in your path except like the boss fight with Jack, obviously. But like you just rear back and it just explode, and it's like, oh my God, this rules.
It was so satisfying to watch.
Oh, it was so good. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
which is the thing I had not had in this game until then. Like, it's weird how like just changing the gameplay to this made it so much more fun, and it
Right.
somehow just worked way better.
Well, and also like he had a personality, even though like we didn't
Yeah,
really we saw him a few times in cutscenes, but like he had a lot of things to say and they were like interesting.
yeah. I mean that
Whereas
this DLC is like what 2 hours, and I feel like we
yeah.
know more about him than we know about Ethan.
Yeah. Because Ethan's just like he reacts, but he doesn't really do anything other than just be a guy who
Yeah.
reacts, who wants to find his wife. Like there's really nothing about Ethan that's interesting in this game. And then you get this guy and you're like, "You. I
Why were
like
you here the whole
you.
time?
Why couldn't we play as you trying to take down your family, my friend?"
Man,
Can you imagine Resident Evil
man.
7 if it had just been that instead?
Just plowing through that house, punching everything.
Yeah.
Punch grandma. Oh, that's the end of the game. Roll credits.
Just keep getting the little like voodoo doll things,
Yeah. Just
boosting
get
up your
beefy.
punch.
I'm so strong. So good.
So
So good.
they nerfed Chris and they gave all the punching ability to this guy.
It's worth it.
Worth it.
Worth it. But yeah, you like I said, his whole thing is like Zoe's messed up from this stuff. He's like, I'm gonna find some way to help her because she's my family, and that's it. And then you go through the swamps and everything, and you find like at the beginning you find a small bit of serum, and you do that, and you're like, why does it work? And the umbrella guy's like, you need the full thing to make it work. He's like, God,
We're gonna find that.
we're gonna go find that. And then eventually you find that, and eventually it leads you to another big fight with Jack where you have to like gauntlet punch him to death essentially.
Yep. Back in the house actually, which is
Back in the
interesting.
house, and then you beat him and like punch him in half till he explodes.
Yep.
And then you give Zoe the cure, and then Umbrella shows up, and you're like, okay. And here comes Chris. Chris is like, hey, we're here to help y'all. And then you see Zoe gets cured from her infection, and Jack's like, or Joe's like, oh, thank goodness, this is great. And then Chris gives her a phone. He's like, hey, here's a phone call for someone you know, and it's Ethan. Like, I promised I would send help. She's like, oh, thank you. Okay, that's the end of the DLC. See you later.
Yep.
That's basically it.
Also, I mean, he did the serum was in existence because of Umbrella, but Chris didn't save her at all.
No.
No, it was all this guy, and Ethan
Yeah.
didn't know this guy, didn't know to send him. Otherwise, she would have been a Final Fantasy summon.
She did look
Forever.
like a Final Fantasy summon.
She totally looked like a Final Fantasy summon. She was like some version of Shiva.
Yeah. I just like how Joe just roams into the swamps. It's like, what the hell happened to my niece?
Nope.
Where are all these monsters here? I'll punch them.
Not on my watch.
I was like, yeah, dude.
God, he rules. God, he rules. He's
Isn't the thing like he's roaming around hunting gators or gators, excuse me, and just like
You get it
stumbles
right.
upon Zoe. He's like, what the heck happened here? What is
Yeah.
going on here?
Yep.
So good, man. That ruled.
It ruled. The only thing that didn't rule is that the guy had kept calling them crocodiles, and they're not
Yeah.
crocodiles. They're alligators because
Alligator.
that's what lives in that area of the U.S. Also, alligators look entirely different than crocodiles. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I did not.
Their heads are shaped different.
Nahone.
They are built different, if you will.
Ho ho.
Ah! Also, I feel like Joe's like running around in like suspenders. Am I remembering that correctly?
He might be.
Now I gotta see if there's like art of Joe.
I will say that like probably one of the reasons why this DLC is much better than the Chris one is that like this DLC was developed by Capcom internally. The Not a Hero one was outsourced to a different development team.
Ah, I see.
So there is that. Yeah, that End of Zoe DLC is fantastic. Best part of this game by far.
By far.
But really overall, like, yeah, this game just, man, ain't great.
No. Oh, you know what he's probably wearing? They are suspenders, but I think he's probably wearing like those rubber suspenders since he was in like hunting alligators.
Hmm.
So he wouldn't want to have like jeans and stuff on. He would want to have protective pants. So
Right.
the rubber suspenders totally make sense. I'm pretty sure that's
Right.
what he's wearing, looking at him.
Good old Joe.
One thing that we know from, well, just looking at things is that we do get Brick Wall Chris back eventually.
Yes, in Resident Evil 8.
Yep.
Fortnite's Chris Redfield.
Oh my god.
Because that version of him is in Fortnite.
Oh my god. Um, and I have seen the entirety of Resident Evil 8 like
Except
three
the DLC.
times, except for the DLC.
Yeah.
Like three times because my brother played a lot of it. So that I could see the story. But
You have
now
not
that
played it.
I've not played it, and now that we have played this, we'll have
Time to
everything
move forward.
we'll have
Yep.
everything fresh in our memory. And this time it's gonna be a switcheroo in that I'm gonna be the one that's playing.
Hmm.
You're gonna be the one that's watching.
Yeah, because you've been waiting to play this ever since they announced that third person option that they included in the DLC and are putting into the full game and everything. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna watch you play this in third person and see how different it is, I guess, from 7 and what Village would be essentially by itself as well. So we will be playing through that fairly soon.
Yep.
So I'm
we have to
curious to
rely
see
on
how
Target.
I'm curious to see how all this is gonna go.
I still can't get over how good that DLC is.
So good.
I don't think I'll ever recover from how good that
So
DLC is. So good. God,
Man.
punching gauntlet.
Man.
Also, he doesn't need any weapons. Screw them weapons.
Punch.
What a that dude, he has confidence in himself.
Have confidence.
Yes, confidence.
All confidence.
Yep,
But yeah, that's Resident Evil 7.
we played it.
We did play it.
We beat it.
We did beat it.
We mostly
Punch,
hated
punch.
it.
Except for punching.
Except for punching. That's you know what?
2 thumbs up for punching.
2 thumbs way up for punching. Yes.
But yeah, that is Resident Evil 7 for you. That's gonna do it for this week's here podcast. So, if you would like more from us, head on over to seasonalanimecheckup.com or sac.cool, where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like Jared and Al Watch. You can also find columns and reviews on the site as well. If you'd like more from Anladium, go to anladium.com. She's got columns and reviews. You can follow us on Twitter and TikTok at Anime Checkup. You can buy our books, One Shiny Moment, a critical analysis of Love, Life, Sunshine, and Hot Tubs and Pac-Man on Amazon.com. And you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA. Buy us a slice of pizza, get access to unedited versions of the podcast early, and a whole wealth of bonus content as well. Next week, I guess we'll talk about Mario and Rabbids, because presumably I will have beat that game by then. I don't think it's going to take me a week to get through the final section.
God, I would hope not, unless it happens like I did, where it crashes halfway through it. But hopefully that still won't take you a week.
Yeah, so we'll probably talk about the new Mario plus Rabbids video game.
Sparks of Hope.
I think that's right. That sounds right.
I think so.
So yeah, we'll talk about that next week for, of course, our Thanksgiving celebration episode.
Good.
What better way?
Yep.
So yeah, next week.
Yes.
Mario.
Rabbids.
They're all here for dinner.